Alright, hello. I don't know how to start this off, but anywho, right here I have a question from grammerhero, and I believe this is a very good question. I'm a nerd about this, and I really do enjoy this question a lot. So, this is how it, this is what it says. A student finishes the first half of the exam in 2/3 of the time it takes him to finish the second half of the exam. If the entire exam takes 1 hour, how many minutes does he spend on the first half of the exam? Okay, so let's first see what they're asking. They're asking about the time he spends on the first half of the exam. Great. Now let's look at the other pieces of information. He took the entire exam within 1 hour. Okay, that's vital information. That means 60 minutes, because there are always 60 minutes in an hour, for obviously. Alright, you don't need me to tell you why. Alright, now, here's another good piece of information. The first half of the exam took him 2/3 of the time it took him to finish the second half. Okay, that is very crucial. Now, before we continue, we have to have a value for this half of the exam. We need a value. So what I'm going to do is let x represent half of the exam. So I'm going to let this x represent the second half of the exam, and I'm going to let this x represent the first half. I hate that drawing S's. Now, but here's another part. See this? 2/3. It took him 2/3 of the amount of time it took him to complete that exam. Okay, perfect. So 2/3. Great. Great. Perfect. If it helps you, you can always put a 1 in front of it, but either way, it's fine. It's fine if you don't, fine if you do. Now, we have our fraction. Great. We got all the necessary information from this question, and now we put it in an equation. Now we can solve for x. But hold on, there's two x's. So, what we're going to do, we're going to add them together. So 60 equals 1/2 x. Great. That's the time it took him to complete the entire exam. I don't like this though. I don't. This is a compound fracture, not fracture, fraction. Sorry, compound fraction, and I don't really like it. So I'm gonna make it into an improper fraction. Multiply 1 by 3, which gets us obviously 3, and then add 3 to 2, which means it's 5/3. That's a very ugly 5. God damn. Alright. 60. So 60 equals 5/3 x. Great. Now we're almost there. I want to get x by itself, so what I'm going to do is multiply by the reciprocal of 5/3, which would be 3/5. These two cancel out, and then these two remain. Now, what we can see here is that we can actually cancel out this 5 and this 60, and then this becomes 12. Perfect. Amazing. Perfect. Great. Now, 3 times 12, 36. X equals 36. Great. Great. Awesome. We're nearly there. Now, what we have to do now is plug it back in. Let me just make quick room for this. All right, we're gonna have to plug it back in. Generally, once I get that x, I just ignore this. All right, this does not matter anymore. That's what the information that we had to use to get for this. All right. Now, 2/3 times 36. What I forgot to mention is that if it also helps you, you can always add a 1 underneath these types of numbers. For example, here as well, you can always add a 1 too. Alright, should have mentioned that from the beginning, but you know, I'm kind of new to this shit. Darn it! Anywho, so now let's see. 3 goes into 36 12 times. Now 2 times 12, it's 24. Meaning, he spent 24 minutes. Hold on, let me just. There we go. 24 minutes on the first half of the exam and 36 minutes on the second half of the exam. And if you want to check your work, all you have to do is just add 36 and 24. So let's add those. It's a very ugly 6, sort of better. 0, 1, 1 plus 3, 4 plus 2, 6. Would you look at that? It's 60. Great, perfect. Now let's move on to the second. Alright, so it stopped. I don't like it, but you know what? I gotta live with it. If I can find a better program, I will most definitely use it more, I guess. Alright. So let's look at this one. The price of lemons at a farmer's market is $7.50 per pound. This is 150% their cost at the supermarket. How much would they cost per pound at the supermarket? Okay. From the beginning, I could see this is a very vague question. But if you notice, we have a percentage here. 150% their cost at a supermarket. Now, if you think about it, $7.50 and 150% of their cost, it means it's a markup. Alright? It's a markup, which means we're multiplying. Markup means multiply. Markup equals... Actually, now that can be confusing. I should really find a way better system for this crap. Okay, markup equals multiply. Great. Now let's plug it in. 7.5. Where do we get the 7.5? From the $7.50 per pound at the farmer's market is equal to 1.5. Now, where do we get that? Yeesh, Jesus. Hold on. I should really invest in a stylus and a writing pad. There we go. So, the way I got 1.5 from is from 150%. Alright, the decimal point is right here, and once we want to convert the percentage into a decimal, or a number, technically, all we have to do is shift over the decimal 1, 2 times. The decimal point is between the 1 and the 5, which makes it 1.5. Now, we're nearly there. We need a value for the cost per pound at the supermarket. Let that be X. So, X. Great. Now, all we have to do now is just divide 1.5 from both sides. That cancels out, which means this is X is equal to 7.5 over 1.5. Now, let's just divide that. I know in the ASVAB, in the ASVAB, I don't know about PyCat. I never really took it. You're not going to have a calculator. So it's better just to do it long division, alright? If you don't know it, I suggest you start learning it again, because I know people forget. But what I'm doing right here is it's shifting over the decimal points, because I don't really want to deal with that. Alright? So, let's take a look. How many times does 15 go over, divide into, okay, let me rephrase. How many times does 75 divide into 15? There we go. Well, since they're both 5s, I'm going to assume since they're both 5s, I know they divide into each other quite a lot. Or, fuck. Okay, let me rephrase. Since I know they're 5s, they might have a 5. So 5 times 5, 25. 5 times 1, 5. Added 2, 75. Okay, see? 75. So it divides into 75 divides into 15 5 times. Boom. See? There we go. But now you're wondering, what about the decimal points? Well, you see, they're right. It's right here. All right. It's right there. So if we were to not shift them over, technically the decimal point would have been somewhere over here. But we shift them over, then boom. All right. There we go. So which means at the supermarket. Okay, there we go. At the supermarket, they would cost $5 per pound. And what I typically like to do is just box in my answer. Alright, now on to the next question. Okay. Alright, I'm back. Now we have this question. A boat goes 3 times as fast downstream as it can go upstream and 1/6 as fast upstream as it can go in calm water. Fucking autocorrect. If it goes 30 miles per hour downstream, how long will it take to travel? It's supposed to be 240, so let's just correct that. 240 miles. Jesus, that's a worse zero. Miles in calm water. Now, we need to find 3 values, alright? Downstream value, upstream value, and calm water value. Luckily for us, we were given one of those. The downstream, 30. Perfect. Perfect. Now, there is a third value, right? 3 times as fast downstream as it can go upstream. Alright, perfect. We have another one. So apparently, the speed of upstream, so apparently the downstream speed is 3 times bigger than the upstream. So what we do, we just divide by 3. 30 becomes 10. Awesome. Oh, here's another one though. Here's another one. 1/6 as fast upstream as it can go in calm water. What does that mean? It's basically saying that 10 is just 1/6 of the speed that it can go in calm water. So let's put that in a formula. 10 equals 1/6, and let's use the value of C to represent the calm water. Now, let's multiply by its reciprocal, which is 6. That cancels out, and 6 times 10 is 60. Now, there is a formula, the distance formula, which is distance equals rate times time. Alright? Now, we have the distance, which is 240. What we have to find is time by the question, how long? Which means time is what we need. Which leaves us with rate. And rate, and it's asking us for the rate in calm water, which is 60, which means 240 is equal to 60 times t. Now, let's divide 60 on both sides. Yeesh, that's a bad one. Okay. These two cancel out, which means t is all alone. And then 240 divided into 60, that is 4. Which means t equals to 4. Alright? The thing that I'm getting at is that most of the information is going to be, not most, all the information that you're going to need is going to be within the equations. Alright? All you gotta do is just piece it together. It's like a little jigsaw puzzle, alright? You gotta piece it together, and then the picture just paints itself clear. Alright? Anyways, goodbye and good luck.